Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on human rights in the era of digitalization. Today, we are commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For 75 years, the core ambition of the Declaration has been to infuse societies with equality, fundamental freedoms, and justice. It enshrines the rights of all human beings and is a global blueprint for international, national, and local laws and policies, and a bedrock of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The era of digitalization provides tremendous opportunities to advance the safeguarding and exercising of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Before we go further, let me introduce the eminent personalities who are present here for the discussion on the topic Human Rights in the Era of Digitalization. We have Dr. Rangaswamy D., Assistant Professor, Karnataka State Law University in Hubballi, Karnataka, India. Dr. Shalini Rohilla, Assistant General Manager, Housing and Development Corporation Limited, New Delhi, India. Dr. Nana Charles Nguindip, Senior Lecturer in Law, Faculty of Law and Political Science, Department of English Law, University of Dschang in Dschang, Cameroon. We have Advocate Akshay Bajpai, Cybersecurity and Digital Evidence Expert, District Bar Association in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. We have Dr. Aneesia Jayadev, Nodal Officer, Gender, Associate Professor, Institute of Management in Government, Vikas Bhavan Post, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, India. We have Mrs. Nidhi, Advocate, Supreme Court of India in New Delhi, India. Welcome all the dignitaries. Now we will start the discussion. The first question is, do you think digitalization is an inevitable or integral part of the system nowadays? May I request Dr. Rangaswamy sir to please give his opinion on the question?
Yeah, good evening. Am I audible, Reshu?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so good evening to you all. At the outset, I would like to thank organizers for having me for this great event, and I congratulate them for organizing such a distinctive event on the eve of International Human Rights Day 2023. To answer the question, it is evident from the historical accounts that societies, many of the societies across the globe, so survived for many centuries even without science and technology. In fact, we could see a kind of a blurred development of science and technology during the earliest period. Even nowadays, we are witnessing a kind of trends or notions like it is better to go for our previous days or practicing previous age or phase. So that would be ideal, that would be health for society. But despite the present era is the age of science and technology, so there is no doubt about it. I would like to quote one of the American actor, David Lynch. So he says like, negativity is the enemy of creativity. You know, merely because of some disadvantages, we can't completely ignore, we can't isolate ourselves from benefit of science and technology. In fact, nowadays things are proved beyond doubt that no country can survive without science and technology. So it's evident that each and every corner of life of the society or individual or nation. So it is backed back with science and technology. So the survival of the nations and ensuring quality life for the people of the respective nation. So it is strongly influenced by science and technology. So without science, so it is hardly difficult for any nation to survive. In fact, just out of interest, I just went through various constitutions, like in which way this science and technology, so that has been given importance under the grand norm, the constitutions. So it is evident that enormous interest that has been given for science and technology under various constitutions across the globe. We can't find the constitution ignoring or sidelining the concept of science and technology, in the two, in the context of creativity, in the context of freedom of thought. So various forms of constitutional protection that has been given for science and technology, including our Indian constitution. If you look into Article 51A subclass H of the Indian Constitution, so developing scientific temper, spirit of inquiry and reform. So that is one of the fundamental duty as contemplated under Indian Constitution. So digitalization, being one of the important species of technology, remarkably impacted modern age, and it has strengthened the view that digitalization would be inevitable for the modern society. So as to emphasize that inevitability of the digitalization or digital era, I would like to refer to a particular literature, that is Handbook on Measuring Digital Trade. So that is the handbook published by a World Trade Organization in association with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and United Nations Organization. So that was the handbook published in the year July 2023. So that is the literature. So that is quite a formal or authentic document to understand the ways and means in which the digitalization is governing current economic system. So that is quite that handbook is dominant in terms of economy. So it is evident that it is not only economy. So whatever the allied things, so they are significantly influenced by that digitalization. So because of that, it is inevitable for each and every nation to accept, adapt, to practice that digitalization to such an extent that importance of the digitalization, so that has been emphasized in that report. To conclude my response to this question, again, I would like to quote a statement from another literature, that is Digital Economy, Pacific Edition 2022. So that is the literature published by United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. The statement is like, I quote, technology is not deterministic. It creates both opportunities and challenges. So no country, unquote. So no, it is evident from this sentence that statements that no technology or innovation or inventions, they are free from challenges. So each and every technology, it may be digitalization for that matter, or any other technology for that matter, so like they are connected with opportunities and challenges. So facing such kind of challenges in a meaningful way, and adapting the benefits or opportunities and cashing opportunities of that technology. So that is the challenging task for the nations. And of course, it is inevitable for a country like India to move in that direction. So I would say digitalization, though it is connected with or associated with challenges, so it is inevitable for the nations, so as to reach that perfect development, or to reach that rounded personality. So that is my response to that question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your opinion. Now I request Mrs. Nidhi to give her opinion on the question. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
First of all, congratulations to all the people on this auspicious occasion of International Human Rights Day. And as explained and elaborated by Dr. Sir. I completely agree with him, and I think he has explained it wonderfully. And I hope that the concept of basic human rights definition and purpose objectives are cleared through his vision. Thank you.
Now I would like to request Advocate Akshay Bajpai to give his opinion on the question.
Good evening to all. So, as sir and ma'am talk about digital transfer, human rights in the era of digitalization, where the question is that human rights is inevitable or not. So here I totally agree with the sir, whatever he explained, and as from my side, digital transformation of business organizations is one of the example of inevitable digitalization in the era of human rights, as it spreads interaction between businesses and clients. For an example, today we are having one platform and we are connected to each other. This is one of the great example of digital inevitable of human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful opinion. Now I would request Dr. Aneesia Jayadev to give her opinion.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. The question posed to me was, how might the use of digital technology either include or exclude specific groups from protection and promotion of human rights? Being a social scientist, I would just talk about the social perspective of this particular issue. As you all know, the widespread spread use of new digital technology poses both challenges and opportunities for various areas of human rights beyond the traditional digital rights. What are the traditional Are you not able to hear?
Ma'am, we are able to hear you.
Okay, thank you. So the traditional digital rights are rights of
Shriman Shudas, could you mute yourself?
Data protection and freedom of opinion and expression, including freedom of assembly and association. So here we have to imagine our day-to-day life without a reliable, consistent, and rapid access to the internet. So what kind of impact would it have on our ability to communicate with others, stay in touch with our family and friends, complete the schoolwork, look for a job, keep up on current events, or take care of your daily financial transactions? This issue of digital divide disproportionately affect the population of India phenomenally. I'll just quote the example of the pandemic 2020 or the COVID-19. The role and importance of technology had become glaringly obvious in this during this phase of pandemic. At that point of time, the society was forced to rely even more heavily on technology for basic daily living, including access to basic goods, maintenance of connection with others, work from home, and have the ability to complete schoolwork by the students. I would just point out that there is an intersectional dimension for this particular right for connecting ourselves digitally. However, completing these basic tasks, which I have referred to, is a major challenge for lakhs and millions of people who lack access to high-speed internet or who do not opt to use internet, creating disadvantages that can affect their ability to participate in social, political, and economic lives in the place they live. Those without access or adoption are in the digital divide. I just point out that digital divide is not only digital divide, but digital inequality. Inequality in any form is human rights violation. Furthermore, we can also say that this structural reality effectively result in what the technocrats call the digital redlining. This injustice calls on social workers to engage in policy and program initiatives to close the digital divide, or rather digital inequality, which qualifies to be called a human rights violation. Human rights activists and general society should discuss who does and does not have access to an essential service that is part of the daily fabric of life in the digital era. We should also discuss why the digital divide is a human rights and social justice issue. And we should examine promising practices and advocacy tools utilized in the field that can assist community practitioners to engage work at state and local levels aimed at closing the digital inequality, which is intersectional. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you have given your views on the question, how is digitalization helpful in including or excluding specific groups from protection or promotion of human rights? Thank you for your wonderful opinion. Ma'am, I would request Dr. Shalini Panigrahi to please share her opinion on this topic. On this
I
question.
think we were discussing the question number 1.
No, question number 3. How is digitalization helpful in including or excluding specific groups from protection or promotion of human rights?
Okay. I will like to say that the question number 1 was very well addressed by sir. So some points I would like to add in that.
Yes, ma'am. Please go on.
Okay. I was just going through some international journals, and they quoted some really good advantages of this digital transformation. Some of them are with digitalization, we have seen that the work has become paperless, faceless, and cashless. Like in our organization also, even the government organizations are working towards this paperless scheme. Now we are wasting less paper, so we are protecting the environment. So in that way, we are protecting the human right to life. So in this way, the digitalization has helped a lot. And then with the digitally transformed, a lot of data that can be stored in the cloud space, and things can be found in a click of, we can just log in and we can check the substance. Then it has helped the nation, which will make the process more transparent and will help in weeding out corruption. I will just quote an example of my working in my organization only, that if we are given a work, so we have to complete that task in a span of 2-3 days. So this digitalization has made us more effective and more vigilant. Earlier, people used to sit on the files, but now we are working very fast, because now we will be tracked. So in this way, the digitalization has helped very efficient working in this sphere of organization we are working. Then it is also helpful in this protecting of human right to human right to life, human right to transparency. We all want that every information should be accessible to all and free to all. So this digitalization has increased the productivity, profitability, and agility of the organizations. Even the customer service has got they have been offered with personalization, and thus increase in the customer retention. So we can coordinate and will rest with the part of the world and digital culture. So along with the advantages, there are a lot of disadvantages. Later on, we will discuss. But I feel that this digitalization has played a very important role in realization of so many rights and human rights. As we know that it's like it includes it's a retina of rights, right to life, right to express ourselves. Now we freely express ourselves in this digital space, but they have led to a lot of criticism also, that we are not whatever we are posing on the internet can be misused also. So that we will discuss later on in the further questions. So I feel that this digitalization is very important for the growth of human rights. This is my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful opinion. Now, I would request Dr. Nana Charles Nguindip to please share his opinion on the question. The question is, do you think digitalization is an inevitable or integral part of the era of the systems nowadays?
Yeah, yes. It is good to digitalize human rights. It's good. But the problem is at the level of the violation cases. What happened when they violate the human rights when they digitalize? How can we bring action against somebody who have violated the human right? That is where the problem of the internet or is talking about here, because it is human right has a fundamental problem. The issue is not just the human right in whole. The problem is at the level of protecting and persecuting those who have violated the human right. So putting digitalization of human rights here is good. It helps for accessibility, it helps for connection, it helps for information, it helps for communication, good. But now there is a lot of violation cases. There's a lot of violation cases when it comes to fundamental right, like the right to privacy. People have to maybe enter people's privacy more than once. They have to intervene. So it becomes problematic. How do we prosecute those who intervene in people's privacy at the level of the internet age? So it is difficult to handle that aspect there, because you don't see the violation. You just is going through the digital age. So it becomes problematic to prosecute those people who have violated human rights through the digital age. That is my own opinion as to that. Yeah.
I totally agree with Nana Charles, sir. The human rights to like digitalization is there, but so many violations are there. So we need a very strong protection. We need a strong international law which will protect the human right to privacy. So we have seen the growth of international law through various conventions, like Universal Declaration of Human Rights is already talking about the right to privacy. Then International Covenant on ICCR, ICCPR, these important international conventions have already handled this right to privacy. But we need that these offline provisions to convert to online provisions also. And we need a separate this law on the right to which will protect this right to privacy. So we have to study a lot about this. Still, the international framework is not catering to these problems.
I absolutely agree with the two members of this panel. And further, I would like to put lights on these trivial issues. First of all, if we zoom into the social media content regulations, as an example, there are basically at least two issues at stake. First is protecting the freedom of expression and speech, ensuring the legal content remains online. Whereas we must focus on the enforcing the boundaries of the freedom of expression and speech, means removing the unlawful contents. That is the basic boundary we have to draw in order to protect the basic human rights and to ensure the regulation of human rights laws at appropriate and proper place. Like,
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
example, okay.
Ma'am, please go on.
Yeah. Like, for example, if we go through enforcing the boundaries of the freedom of expression, we have recently seen the internet ban during the Manipur conflicts. People were not provided the digitization system or the facilities during that conflict moment. Why? That was the need of the hour in that case. Whereas in various cases where there is violation of human rights, it is the need of the hour to use the system of internet or digital media, social media, in order to raise our strict voice against that violation. That is the basic difference. We have to draw the line and we have to ensure its implementation in a strict way. That is my view.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful opinion. Now we will take a short break and we will meet after that. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
The question is, could you please elaborate on the status of protection and promotion of human rights in the era of digitalization? May I request Dr. Nana Charles Nguindip to please give his opinion for the question?
Yes, when it comes to the protection, we know that the law is the one that protects, and the law has already given so much reason of protection by enacting a series of law from the international, regional, and even the national level to ensure that the human right found in the digital age in the internet should be protected by all, by restricting some information which should not be published on the internet and all the rest. That is good. That is good, and it's become the level of the promotion where the state of country have been able to put in place various institutions in place to ensure that the human rights should really be respected by those in the society. But the problem is that even though with the protection at the level of this, the law is trying all its best to protect human rights and even the government and the agencies, but there are still enormous violations of this human right and the digital age. Digitalization does not mean that we don't have violation. We see experience violation irrespective of the laws put in place and irrespective of the measures put in place by the various bodies in the country. There is still rampant increase, a high increase of the human right. People don't have preference for the internet. You see the way they enter into the internet and do what they want to do, information, they just violate information on the internet, violate expression of freedom, all the type of things. It becomes disturbing for all to see if truly there is the protection and the promotion, they are really effective, because the internet has become an accessibility to everybody. And there is no regulation, there is no control. You can enter the way you want, you can live the way you want, and as a result of that, there is always that aspect of violation, and it becomes a problem. Yeah, that is my opinion to that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your wonderful opinion for the question. Sir, may I request Dr. Aneesia Jayadev to please give her opinion on the topic?
What exactly is the question which I have to answer? Can you please
Reshu, you
give
are
the
muted.
question once again.
Reshu, you are muted.
Reshu, is it possible for you to narrate the question once again?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, yes. Can you give the question once again?
Could you please elaborate on the status of protection and promotion of human rights in the era of digitalization?
Protection of human rights. Both pros and cons regarding the wide digitalization which is happening in our world. There are a lot of legal infrastructure which has been created to protect the various privacy and the related kind of things, cyber abuse, data protection and all. There are a lot of policies and programs which are initiated by the respective government and the respective judicial mechanisms. But the problem is that in the implementation level, there are a lot of loopholes. Take the case of issues of the children, the data of children being misused and manipulated over the social media platforms and all. Even though we raise complaints and all, the mechanism fails to address it perfectly. So it is for the society to be very cautious about how individuals are to use the social media kind of things, how to use it for the benefit, and how to protect personally by virtue of adopting to wise way of utilizing the digital media. So this is one thing which I want to tell. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I request Dr. Shalini Rohilla Panigrahi to give her opinion for the question?
Yeah, I was just listening to ma'am, and I quietly agree with her that a lot of freedom has been given regarding this digitalization. But when it comes to protection, the national governments have not played that important role. And if we talk in the international arena, the international human rights, there are still their laws is like protecting under firstly the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. As I told, Article 12 of that convention is talking about, and it states that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his or her privacy, family, home, or correspondence. So there is protection under this declaration, and also International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, Article 17. So no one shall be subjected to arbitrary and unlawful interference with his or her privacy, home, family, and correspondence, nor to unlawful attacks on his or her honor and reputation. So these international conventions are protecting the harmful effect of this like digitalization also, and the impact of the harmful effect of digital technology has been covered under these conventions. And also there are like Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, which I was going through when I was researching on this topic. So I found out that this was adopted in 1980, which says that the guidelines governing the protection of privacy and trans-border flows of personal data are a non-binding, although they have non-binding effects, still they are persuasive to the countries to set out principles to achieve these objectives. Then there are, then when I was going through some conventions like Council of Europe, Convention number 108, this also provides for the protection of this harmful effect of digitalizations, which says that at the time of the study, it has been ratified also by 42 countries, which talks about protection of individuals with regard to automatic processing of personal data So these conventions are coming up, and we have to work on these. We have to work seriously for the protection of the data, which is like very vulnerable in the era of digitalization. So this is my view.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your wonderful views. May I request Mr. Akshay Bajpai to give his opinion for the topic?
Yes, ma'am. And one more thing, ma'am, I want to add that with this conclusion, I am moving ahead with my question of which are those human rights severely impacted due to digitization. Because my comment will end on to this. As we cannot on this this last question, I will comment that we cannot ignore the dark side of digitization, as there are major global human rights issue. In one word, I will say that unmistakable risk which can be made by the people while using digital technologies. Digital technology already delivers many benefits. Its value for human rights and development is very enormous. We can communicate and connect around the globe as never before. We can empower, investigate, we can inform, and with the advancement of artificial intelligence to predict, we can also use a digital trail while leading any room or any services. And moving ahead, ma'am, should I move ahead with my question?
Yes, sir.
The digitization of society has made both positive and negative impacts on human rights. As if we talk about digital technologies and advancement of certain rights like right to access information and freedom of expression, but since few years before, when section 66A of Information Technology Act 2000 will declare unconstitutional by Honorable Supreme Court after one of the case held in Pune, and there are many human rights that are severely impacted due to digitization. One is of privacy rights. We can see that there are many news and many updates are coming day to day that severe data has been leaked, Aadhaar information has been leaked of this billion number of people's and etc. The collection and analysis of the amount of personal data raise concern about individual rights to privacy. As personal data, which are used by the credit card companies, financial agencies, and customer care organizations, basically they are not at all protective, and certain data breaches are organizing from that. Second is of freedom of expression. People are using digital platforms which provide a space for free expression without any concern on censorship, online harassment, or spread of misinformation. They can excessively using digital technologies and digital platforms. But this is not the reason, and this is not the way the freedom of expression, speech and expression could be happen. People should also get aware of the things and methods and methodologies which they are using in this while using this platform. The third is right to information. Right to accurate and reliable information is not at all available in the platform. If we are using and if we are getting access to, if we are doing any research on the right to information or of information of some organization of some people, we are getting many links which manipulate us to different platforms. Fourth is of security and surveillance. Increased security and security and surveillance technologies both by government and private agencies. As we can now see that there are an updation at international airport and national airports where they are using facial recognition technologies, which is an example of an AI that can infringe on the right to be secure from arbitrary interference with privacy. The fifth one is of labor rights. There are many problems and many challenges peoples are facing who are traditional labor, and if we are talking about traditional labor rights, there are many challenges to traditional labor rights as they are not informed or they are not aware of the technologies. Like if we are talking about the provident fund, laborers are requesting to get visit many times in the office of EPFO for taking their money of provident fund, which is not at all easy, and they are not using digital technologies. They are calling different times and odd hours at their working hours to visit offices and apply for application, this application, then get approval from the organization, then after approval for file this application and then attach these documents, then we will process, and that procedure will goes around 3 months. Their laborers are getting suffer as they are not aware of the technologies. The sixth one is, ma'am, right to assembly and association, where the suppression of digital protest and restrictions on online organization are the major concern. Then the last is of cyber security and cybercrime. The rise of cyber threats poses challenges to the right to security as individual and organization may face risks such as hacking, identity theft, and cyber attacks. Many women and girls are getting cyber harassment, cyber bullying, like that. Thank you. And this is the main concern from my side on this topic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your opinion. Now, may I request Mrs. Nidhi to please elaborate on the status of protection and promotion of human rights in the era of digitalization?
Thanks a lot to all the panel members, and a special thanks to Reshu for providing me this wonderful opportunity to present my views on this issue, which is a vital issue in my views, taking the context of human rights. So I will start with the Article 1 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. As we all know, and we have read it before also, it states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. That is the main essence of human rights, and which has been very well enshrined in our constitution, and the basic human rights has been covered in our constitution with the fundamental rights like right to equality and right to freedom, which includes speech, expression, assembly, association, or union or cooperative movements, or right to practice any profession or occupation, or right to life, liberty, right to education, protection in respect to conviction in offenses, and protection against the arrest and detention in certain cases as well. Again, right against the exploitation, prohibiting all forms of forced labor, child labor, and traffic in human beings. Then comes the right to freedom of religion. We can preach the religion which we want to, and nobody has the right to stop us. Then comes the right to constitutional remedies for the enforcement of fundamental rights, which cover the basic human rights laws. Then the cultural and educational rights, and the right to education, which includes or ensures that the children up to the age of 14 years get free education and the basic education. So The topic which I'm covering consists of three major parts. One is human rights, second is the social media, and right to privacy. So, as human rights, it has been defined earlier by the honorable panel members. So, I would not like to elaborate it much and will not take much time. So, I would rather come to the social media topic. What is social media actually? Social media is a collective term for website, applications, AI that basically focuses on communication, community based inputs, interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. And as we all agree, without any conflict or dispute, that it plays a very vital and important role in changing the human and political rights. Social media basically informs the citizens about their social and political rights in a very fast medium. Social media provides a platform to raise our voice against the human rights violations or against the violators. Also plays a crucial role in exposing and naming and shaming human rights violators to help bring about the changes in the society. And we, as a social engineer, becomes the parts and the pillar of that social media to change the aspects and forms of all those things which we have discussed. Secondly, it also helps to run the campaigns for human rights, as we have already seen in so many examples. For example, we as a people have raised our voice against the injustice through the use of social media in many cases. The recent case is that Shraddha murder case or the Nirbhaya rape case. It has impacted these cases and the society in many ways through the use of social media. Then we can see the example of Me Too campaign or the farmers protest, or basically to make aware people about their political and human rights. Social media make people think about their rights. It also helps to raise the voice against the injustice. It plays a major role in the worldwide change of political and human rights, and it enhances the knowledge about the human rights. For example, if you see in United States, one of the biggest issue in United States in context with the human rights is the issue of racism. Racism through human and political rights are violated due to racism in United, is not only in United States but in our country as well. I won't disagree with this fact also, that on social media people like students or senior citizens, they share their views, experience about the racism, and thousands of students from the colleges and universities, they started their movement against the basic violation of human rights in the form of racism. Second thing is, in the case of LGBTQ rights also, social media played a very important role, and not to leave the right to equality or right of prisoners. So basically all agrees with all these facts. And second comes the right to privacy. So we can see that the right to privacy in India has developed through a series of decisions over the past 60 years, more than 60 years, in fact. Over the years, inconsistent from the two early judgment created divergence of opinion on whether the right to privacy is a fundamental right or not. Then the landmark judgment of that K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. In that particular judgment, the Supreme Court of India has said that the right to privacy is protected as an part of the right to life and personal liberty under Article 21 and as a part of freedom guaranteed by Part 3 of the Constitution. The judge states the reason behind the one-page order spans 547 pages and includes opinion from the 6 judges, creating a legal framework for privacy protection in India, which is our basic human right. And right to privacy and the freedom from discrimination are, after all, not the only fundamental right potentially affected by the algorithm system, but the AI system also raises issues regarding the freedom of expression and restrictions on the freedom of expression and the freedom of association. And the most recent example, if we see, is the example which comes from the country of China, where the regime uses the AI to censor the speech related to anti-lockdown protest during the lockdown period and the COVID period, among other things. But to be clear, infringements on privacy and discriminations also occur here in the Western world and in our country as well. And in order to move forward with the social media, or particularly with the AI, that is artificial intelligence, and to truly take advantage of its benefit, policymaker or the legislation frameworkers need to consider the impacts of technologies on the whole range of fundamental rights and freedoms protected by human rights instruments. For example, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the International Covenants, or the Constitution of India, the US Bill of Rights, or the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights. So, will not take much time, and will close my note by saying that the perfect quote quoted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was, political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of its social democracy. What does social democracy means? Which is closely related with the human rights. It means a way of life which recognizes liberty, equality, and fraternity as the principle of life, which is much required in this era of social platform development or the technology development. As we all know that the human rights are the rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of any race, sex, nationality, languages, religion, or any status. It includes the right to life, liberty, freedom from slavery and tortures, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without any discrimination. So, in my opinion, appropriate recognition of liberty, equality, and fraternity in humans' life is the real essence of human rights, and there is still a mile to go before we fulfill the dream of successful implementation and elevation of human rights, and also the minimum human rights violation in our country and globally. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for explaining the questions in such an elaborate manner. May I request Dr.
I
Rangaswamy
beg
sir?
your pardon if I have taken time.
No, ma'am.
No, I
No
think she has
problem.
covered the sixth question also. I think the sixth question has also been covered, like the international view on the right to house, this protection of the human
Yeah,
rights.
very true. Very.
So
Actually,
I think
madam,
now,
also that
now I think
one
we should
question.
talk about the way forward in the last concluding note. I think we
Yeah,
should talk
So
about
let
what
us
is the way.
move on to last.
I will just point out the way forward, which was also pointed out by Secretary General of the UN. So there are like 8 to 9 points. So we will just rush through that. First of all, we have to place the human rights at the center of regulatory frameworks and legislation of digital technologies. Secondly, we need a greater guidance on application of human rights standards in the digital age. Thirdly, address protection gaps created by evolving digital technologies. We have to discourage blanket international shutdowns, which we have seen during this COVID pandemic also. and general blocking and filtering of the services. This has led a very serious impact on the right to privacy. Human right-based domestic laws and practice for protection of to deal these privacy rights. Clear company-specific actions to protect privacy rights and other human rights. Adopt and enhance safeguards relating to digital identity. 8th, protect people from unlawful or unnecessary surveillance. Human right-based laws and approaches to address illegal and harmful online content. To ensure online safe spaces, transparent and accountable content, governance frameworks that protect freedom of expression, avoid overly restrictive practices, and protect the most vulnerable. And last but not the least, this United Nations system-wise guidance on the human rights, due diligence and impact assessment in use of new technologies. Technology is like growing, but we have to create a safe space also so that this technology use cannot be undermined or misused. So I end my note. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now I would like to request Dr. Rangaswamy sir to please give his opinion.
I don't have anything to supplement Reshu. So, like, things are meaningfully put forward by Nidhi and Akshay. One question that is relating to social media and particularly its impact on privacy. So that has meaningfully explained by Nidhi. So we need not again discuss on the topic. So even Akshay, he has elaborated on that negative impact of that digitalization on human rights. So right-wise, those things they are explained in which way it will be affecting freedom of speech and expression, association. So those things are meaningfully explained by Akshay. Like actually the question posed by you was like protection and promotion of human rights. In which way this digitalization will be protecting, promoting the human rights. So whatever the rights mentioned by Akshay, so obviously these rights are influenced by the digitalization, and digitalization would be the promising means to implement all these rights. So though he has emphasized that negative dimension of those rights, like in which way they are connected with some demerits or shortcomings. So that is the explanation to understand which are those rights which are significantly influenced by that digitalization. So I would like to add one more thing that is nowadays we are witnessing. Just I was reading a report. So that is the report generated by one of the UK-based non-governmental organization, RAND Corporation. So the RAND Corporation, so that is the institution working for betterment of human rights in Europe. So it is a UK-based non-governmental organization. I forget that human rights in digital era. So that is the title of the report. It is around 86 pages report. They have documented things in such a way that so in which way, which are those specific rights which are influenced by that digitalization? Whatever the rights referred by Nidhi as well as Akshay. So those things they are connected with digitalization, both positive as well as negative dimensions. Those things they have been elaborated in that report. I request all the panelists to look into that so that we will be getting different dimension of the topic. One more thing I would like to comment here is nowadays telehealth. I don't know how many nobody spoke on that. So because of that, I felt like it is quite, because it is a kind of emerging area. So that has emerged as one of the prominent means to reach or to send health services to remote areas. So in the country like India, wherein we are lacking adequate infrastructures in terms of hospitals, doctors, or paramedical staffs. So this telehealth or tele medicine would be the promising tool to reach out mass population of this country and to ensure that right to live in a better way. Even we could connect that digitalization with that of that right to employment. If I speak from my experience, like in Karnataka, they have guaranteed certain guarantees in Karnataka.
And
I am working.
Digital India itself explains the
Yeah.
purpose.
And they can get the data. So how
Yeah,
many people are getting benefited out of the scheme?
yeah, it is not only like maintaining or what is that maintaining statistics, madam. So so as to identify real beneficiaries. So
Real
there is
beneficiaries.
a concept called National
And
Academic NAD depository. So
This is
that is the
very
system
good
wherein they could
initiative.
identify real graduates from the institute, like respective university. So universities, they are under obligation to provide these. See, I'm working on that. What is that issue? So because of that, I have first-hand information with that. So that NAD, that is National Academic Depository. So that is the system wherein all these graduates, postgraduates, their details are captured, and systematic data that has been maintained at national level. So that the implementation of this Yuvanidhi, it depends upon this what is that NAD statistics to be given by universities. Another digitalization I would like to mention here is that drone technology. So nowadays, that has immensely been used by the governments so as to send food or medicine. So if any such kind of things required in case of natural calamities or such kind of things. So that drone technology, so that has been used by the governments so as to take care of the things. So that is the way through which we could understand the role digitalization could play a vital role for the protection as well as promotion of the human rights. If we come to the negative aspect, I would like to say, like, in which way it will be creating gap. You know, digitalization, it is meant for some or a particular population, particular group of the people. You know, it may create, there are good number of statistics to show that women, then marginalized sections like SC, ST, OBC, so those people, they are deprived from this kind of benefits of the digitalization. So that is how this
especially the
digitalization
rural
will be.
sector.
This will
Welcome all the members. My question is, in the backdrop of digitalization on in the backdrop of digitalization and right to privacy, could you please figure out the status of human rights? May I request Mrs. Nidhi to please elaborate her ideas and opinion for the question?
Hi, Rechu. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So earlier also I have presented my view on the same topic, but further also I would like to give my view on two issues. First is the principle which we need to follow in order to promote and protect the human right in the era of this digitization, where our slogan for our country is Digital India. So surely it is for sure that we are promoting and protecting the digital era. And if we zoom into it, the contents of this particular digital era and the content regulations, so we will see two issues at stake. As earlier also I have mentioned it. First is the protection of freedom of expression, that is ensuring the legal contents remains online. Nothing unlawful is present online or on the digital media and can contaminate the ethical and genuine knowledge or the contents. And second is the enforcement of the boundaries of freedom of expression, that is removing the unlawful content. So basically there are two principles. First is the principle of legitimacy, and second is the principle of necessity. This must be considered while opting for the digital platform for providing or protection or promotion of the human rights. And I would like to cite some example as well. For example, in Germany, the limited liability regime that has guided internet services in Europe for the past 20 years now has been supplemented with the network enforcement law. So basically, this network enforcement law requires the companies to act quickly to remove the unlawful content and provide for the substantial penalties if they fail to do so. So this is a kind of law, and the implementation is also very rigid over there. And similar regulation has been tabled in other European countries also, as well as across the globe. Whereas I agree that in our country also legislation have been framed in order to protect and to implement that digital content in the correct way. But somehow our authorities or the concerned government or the judiciary system has not succeeded to that extent. While Germany's motive for such regulations are understandable, as it raises freedom of expression issues, since it delegates an enormous amount of speech decisions to private companies with penalties and short time frames attached. So we have to draw a very thin line in order to differentiate between the legitimate and the illegitimate and the necessary contents and the unnecessary contents. Second, that we must follow the international freedom of expression standards in our content moderation practice in order to match with the standard of the other European, American, or Australian countries. Second, for example, we can take the example of WhatsApp policy issues. The current privacy policy change by WhatsApp is undoubtedly the best example to illustrate the concern of the right to privacy on social media, which I'm not going to elaborate in length. But we all know about this case, and we can learn from this example that how it can affect the rights or the basic human rights on digital platform. So we must work on these two basic principles in order to successfully implement the promotion and protection of human rights in the era of digitization. And apart from this, there is a large section of community or people in our country which are deprived of their basic needs or the amenities like food, clothes, and shelters. These peoples, especially in rural sector, if we see, they are not even in a capacity to afford their basic amenities. So how could they reach to the digital platform in order to raise their voice for their basic human rights? That is a issue for work and also a food for thought to work on the area, that how could this large section of people or community who are deprived of digital platform can take or raise their human rights through digital platform, or how can we as a social engineer provide them their rights in context to the human rights through digital platform. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving your wonderful opinion. Now, my question is, do you think current legal systems, national, regional, and international, are competent enough in dealing the impact of digitalization in human rights? May I request Advocate Akshay Bajpai to give his opinion on the question?
Ma'am, there is an urgent need for governments, social media platforms, and other businesses to protect the fundamental pillars of democratic society. Firstly, like rule of law and full range of rights, accountability, and responsibility. And if I am concluding in one line, then I would like to say that at its best, the digital revolution will empower, connect, inform, and save lives, and its worst, it will disempower, disconnect, misinform, and cost lives. Human rights will make all the differences to that equation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Nana Charles Nguindip to please share his opinion for the question?
Please, can you try to rephrase the question? I could not get the question. Can it be rephrased, please?
Do you think current legal systems, national, international, and regional, are competent enough in dealing the impact of digitalization in human rights?
Yes, I believe it is true, because there is a lot of steps that they are really carrying out. There are a lot of activities that they are really carrying out to ensure that the human rights system, the digitalization of human rights, should be enforced. They are carrying out a lot of, but the problem is at the level of implementation. No matter the effort that are carrying and the measure that are carrying, implementing it will still be a problem, because it will be difficult to regulate human rights at the level of the internet. See, it is exposed to the whole world. So irrespective of the measure that they take and the activity that are carried out in trying to regulate, it will be difficult for them to do it. But at least to an extent, they are really doing something that is there to solve the problem at hand. Yeah. So that's my opinion to that. That's my opinion. That is my opinion to that aspect there. There's a lot of activities at that level, so many activities. But as I'm saying, that the problem is at the level of implementation, enforcing the human right. It will be difficult to enforce, because violation cases are always extending. People are violating human rights every day, especially at the internet age. So something should be done. I believe that more effort should be carried out to really enforce the human rights system. That's it. That's my opinion to that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your wonderful opinion. May I request
okay.
Dr. Shalini Rohilla Panigrahi to share her opinion for the question?
Yeah, I agree with Nidhi and Akshay, which the point of view they raised. It was quite apt. But I would just add that the digital rights, according to me, they are an extension of the rights which has already been enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as applied to the online world. The main objective of these were guaranteed to access of internet, avoiding the so-called digital divide, and the proper use of the network as a common asset belonging to the whole humanity. However, there was a lack of international consensus beyond a resolution on the human rights on the internet, which has led the countries to develop their own digital rights charter, and many countries have been successful also. But we need a global initiative also. The countries have taken the action, but we need a consensus among all the nations so that the transborder data also gets protected. And despite this, but there are some positive impact also, like supranational bodies such as European Union, EU. They have proposed a common framework, at least with regard to the right of personal data protection, that is GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. So these have come into the picture, which obliges the member countries to protect and preserve the personal data and to allow the free movement of data. So these are some positive steps which have been taken to protect the right of privacy and in the era of digitalization. So these are my views on the topic.
I absolutely agree with Shalini ma'am that we require an international setup or the international form of the rules, regulations, and the framework in order to make our legislation or rules or regulation or guidelines more stringent and more up to the mark.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shalini ma'am. Thank you, Nidhi ma'am, for your wonderful opinion. At this point of time, I want to conclude the session. I am thankful to all of you for spending your busiest time gracing the occasion. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds, and this is definitely encouraging us for our future events. And I look forward to more such events in the future with you guys.
I hope
would
we have a
like,
seminar soon.
yes, ma'am. I would like to thank our panelists, Dr. Rangaswamy D, Dr. Nana Charles Nguindip, Mrs. Nidhi Akhori, Dr. Shalini Rohilla Panigrahi, Advocate Akshay Bajpai, and Dr. Aneesia Jayadev uh, for taking part in the discussion and making it a successful one. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.